Dude, I don't. I think the last time I was sober for one of these was December. So uh, at least my at least I'm not gonna skip a beat. But here we are, man. We're here. We're in June. Some people are queer, and we're good with that. Y'all having a good time. And we're here to talk about the one and only Sailor Moon, Eternals Part 1 and 2. I mean, I feel like once this movie was announced to come over to the West, I was like, all right, we have to talk about this. This has to be its own thing.
Yeah, man, I was pretty excited for this one.
Yeah, dude, I know it didn't do too well in Japan as far as sales go, but I mean, there was a lot of other movies going on at the time, and I'm like, yeah, that's fair. I just hope it did well enough for it to warrant like a release in the West. And Netflix said, yeah, man, we got you. It's all good. And you know what, man? I think it was a really good idea to finish watching all of Sailor Moon Crystal and then reread the Dream arc because they went through a lot, man. Like Crystal season one, I think I told you before, like a year ago, I was like, yeah, the pacing is on point for the manga. Like there's very little differences, but man, it looks bad. It just that CG and like some of the animation choices are just oh, dude, it's rough. And then season two, it's like okay, I can deal with it. It's a little bit better. We still got some weird CG in here, but season three is like all right, we're getting back to it now, you know. And like I told you offline earlier, like they got Saturn's story down right, so they have like the whole android piece of her, and that was fucking great.
They missed that in the original show, right?
Dude, they changed the whole thing. They
Oh
changed that
yeah.
whole piece. They changed that whole piece apart. It was all different. So I was like, there was that one part of me that goes, well, I'm gonna watch Crystal because I want to see how true it is, and it's like about 95% true to the source material, and I'm like, that's great. That's how it should be. But it is very rushed, right? I mean, the manga's kind of like we're moving on, we're not stopping for anything, and that's the biggest difference between that and the 90s adaptation because 90s adaptation's got like 200 something episodes. Sailor Moon Crystal I think only has maybe like 50 right now, 40 somewhere in there.
Is there a lot of filler in Crystal? I can't imagine.
No, dude, there's no filler at all. It's literally
Yeah.
just like we're slapping the panels onto the animation, which again, that's really good, you know, except there will be those very dark scenes where they're like, we probably can't do that, you know. We got to keep it a little bit more like magical girl, but not super dark magical girl like Madoka or like some of the other ones out there. I think they just
Yeah.
want to keep that vision there, and I think that's fine. You know, Sailor Moon's been around for so long. Why not just keep it pure? You know, but if people read the manga, like we talked about in the episode when we got into it, dude, it gets a lot darker than you would think.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing, right? It didn't get huge popularity until the anime came out. And it just doesn't give that energy. So it's like, why try to change it now, right? Especially like with
Exactly.
Crystal already getting backlash as it is, it's safer to just
Yep.
leave it alone.
Exactly. You know, and that was one of the big things with Crystal when it came out. It's like, wow, that's really cool. We're going to be close to the manga, but it looks like ass. And like people were still upset. But like I said, dude, when I was rewatching it or watching it for the first time, the first two were really rough. The third one, I'm like, okay, you're getting closer, right? You're getting to that point. And then when I finally saw the trailers for Eternal, I was like, oh, okay, dude, we're there. We're here. And I mean, I think there's like four different trailers I watched, and they all look different. And by the time the last one came out, I was like, "Oh, dude, you got as close as you could to the '90s version, but we're keeping it with the source material, and that's fucking great." And I'm all in for it. But yeah, man, let's fucking get into it, dude. This movie's great. Like the two-parter was a great idea. I think with how short this arc is, it was smarter to do it this way than to spread it out into a couple episodes because it wouldn't have even been very long. You know, I don't even think it would have hit double digits. Probably would have got to like maybe 8, 9 episodes.
Yeah, total runtime for both movies is like 240 and some change. I like what they did a lot with this one. The first thing I thought of was, oh, this doesn't feel like a movie. This feels like an epic. And I think that's pretty good for Sailor Moon because now we don't have to segment every section right into episodes, and the standard movie format just I don't think it would do as well. So just having it be one long continuous thing like what the arc is for each chapter is like, oh, it's perfect.
Exactly. And I think what made it work out even better was that you have it split at the perfect time. We go through every planet, we get Mercury, we get Jupiter, Mars, and then ending it off with Venus, right? Right as we get into the outer planets, Saturn, um, fuck, dude, Pluto, Mer fuck, dude, Neptune and Uranus, dude. Sorry. I guess I am still fucking drunk from somewhere. I do when I saw that again, I literally just reread it like the day before, so everything was really really fresh in my mind. But I was like, oh, dude, okay, it's in two parts. This is where I would split it. This is exactly what I would do, and then move right into the next piece. And it felt so smooth, right? I mean, minus the like Netflix transitioning, but if you just go from one to the other, which is I'm sure like how the DVD could potentially be, like, oh, here's the two part, and then maybe like you want to mix it together, which is I think would be really nice. That way you can just kind of sit there for like 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah. Did you watch them back to back?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I watched the first part and then I watched the second one a few days later, and I say like starting the second part by itself, it was a pretty good start to like you could say
Okay.
like it is a part two is what it feels like. It's sort of like how like Endgame and Infinity War is like this is the continuation, but you could tell there's a difference in the tone. That's what I felt like was going on with Eternal. I was like, oh, this is perfect because we're starting off part two with all the outer sailors. Great, because we already established all the main crew in the first part. So let's
Hmm.
focus a little more in the beginning with the other ones.
Yeah, I was actually rewatching it, and I stopped close to the end. I stopped when Jupiter was getting her crystal, and I was like, I wonder how this is gonna feel when I go back into it.
Mm.
Because when I saw it, it was just all in one sitting. No, actually, the first time I saw it, I take that back. I was very drunk that night, but I stopped right when Mars got her crystal, and then I hopped into Jupiter in the morning, and then went
Oh,
on
okay.
from there. So like I was about halfway through the first part. Yeah, man, I just really like how true it was, and I told you this when I completed it the first time. Like, there's very few differences in here. I mean, the a lot of the differences is really just the comedy bits. So like when
Yeah.
Chibiusa and Usagi switch, when they see them, they're like, "Oh my God, the black lady! Why is she here?" And she goes, "I'm not the black lady." They go, "Oh, hold on, she's not an asshole."
Yeah.
And then there's like a couple bits with Uranus and Neptune, when they're walking around town before they go back home.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's also wholesome, but it's like, oh yeah, I'm married to this girl. This is my wife. Like, we fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, the humor is not really there, and I think they did change some stuff up. I don't know how's the humor in Crystal. Is it pretty on par?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Because one thing I also noticed too was that she doesn't really. I don't remember how she acted in the fourth part, but she wasn't as bratty as she usually was in this, which I appreciated. But again, I don't remember exactly because I know she does have that shift eventually, right? But I don't remember when that
Yeah, yeah.
specific moment
So
was.
yeah, so the shift really starts at the end of season two, where she's like, okay, you know what, Chibiusa is my daughter in the future. Like I can't be a bratty kid anymore. And then season three, she really goes through that whole transition when she has to help her understand what to do with Saturn, and when Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto come out, they're like, yeah, we're gonna kill her, dude. And she goes, no, but you can't. Like, we can actually save this kid. Like, we can not let anything bad really, really happen. And that whole kind of movement does a lot to her psyche. She goes, okay, I can't be a kid anymore, and I want to be this person. I want to be strong for my friends, for my future daughter, and all this kind of stuff. So by the time we get to the dream arc, for Eternal, she's like, oh, dude, I got it, you know, and like especially her connection with Mamoru, when they went through their shit in season two, in season three, there was kind of like, okay, well, we're gonna make it work, right? We're set
Hmm.
on this. We're gonna make sure that we're not gonna be apart. And season four just kind of solidifies that, right? Especially with the whole premise of it being we're attacking Earth, Earth's core, right? Elysium, instead of anything being like super moon based. I mean, except for Nehelenia, but even then, she's like, I kind of just want to take over the Earth and fuck Mamoru, you know?
Yeah, she's like, yeah, she's pulling an Ursula basically.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I will say one thing about this, and with Crystal too. I noticed, I know some people say, why do we have to go with the original art style in the new age? Like, why can't we just modernize it a little bit? And I gotta
Hmm.
say, for the movie, I really liked how it looked.
Hmm.
It looks pretty one to one from the manga, and I don't think I would have wanted it any other way, really.
I completely agree. I completely agree. That's why I mentioned earlier, man, there was like four different trailers I saw for this movie when it was announced.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't look bad at first, but we didn't see too much, right? And I think that was on purpose. They're like, okay, let's see how much perception we can get from the small snippets that we put out there. And like a lot of it also included Helios, which I'm like, well, it's him in his Pegasus form, you know? That's perfect. Like, let us judge it off that. But then the end result, I was like, oh, dude, Chibi Moon looks great. The transformations are awesome. Usagi looks good. Like everybody looks fucking incredible, especially when we get to the end. I
Yes.
mean, there were a few scenes where I'm like, wow, the budget's kind of weird. I don't know if you noticed them. There's a few where I'm like, oh, we dropped here. We dropped some money. We're gonna put it somewhere else. That's fine.
Yeah, it's always very apparent, right, when it comes to anime, like episodic, especially because it's like, well, we have to make sure we spend most of this over here in the big moments, and
Hmm.
you could kind of feel that here because man, that final ending or the ending piece for part two, that was some really good stuff.
Oh yeah, really, really good. But there's stuff when we're in the circus, like when you look at Zirconia's face and then Helenia's face, I'm like, okay, come on, man. But
Yeah,
I'm like, you know what? It's fine. It's fine because overall they did a really, really good job, you know. And I think they really captured because these three characters were really important to a lot of people who loved the 90s adaptation. Was the Tiger's Eye, Hawk's Eye, and Fish's Eye.
yeah,
Huge fan favorites for a lot of different reasons, you know. And when I saw those scenes, I was like, all right, dude, that's you did a really, really good job captivating exactly who they are, and also giving them like that little bit of homage to like what people liked about them in their original adaptation.
hmm,
Just the effects of every single time we had to go and get a crystal, right? For Mercury being in the water, so good, you know. And like I said, dude, rereading it before I watched it to see it like come to life like that, I think was the better experience for me. And I even thought before I was gonna rewatch it, like I should probably just reread it again, just to get that same effect. And like Mars's stuff was great. Dude, the budget for her sniper, man. When she busted out the arrow, I was like,
oh, it's
I
so
had to
good.
pause it. I was like, oh, dude, you know what? You know people love our girl. Just give us all the money. Just put it all right there. It's too good, dude. Too good. Jupiter's was great too. Okay, we need to talk about this one because this one is where I started fucking bawling, dude. Venus is my girl too. And when I saw we were coming up to her part, I'm like, oh, dude, here
Oh
it comes, here
yeah,
it comes. Super emotional. And then we got the one thing I've been saying for fucking so long. I'm like, dude, I just want to see human Artemis. I just want to see him. There was a difference in their scene that I was kind of a little salty about. So as she's going through her stuff, he's trying to be like super caring for her. And at first she listens to him, but then she's like, nah, fuck you. Like, you don't know anything about me. And then Diana is like, oh, mom, to Luna, like, why don't you say anything about him and his relationship to her? Like, he looks at her like he loves her. And she doesn't, and Luna doesn't really say nothing. She just kind of looks at her and is like, fuck, dude, you know? But then that's why we get that whole scene where he turns into a human for her. He goes, no, you are my person, even though I fuck my cat later on.
even though we know how this ends later, yeah.
Yeah, even though we know how the story goes, like I'm here for you and this and that. And dude, when I saw that scene, man, I was like, all right, dude, All those other differences, the gag bits, you could fucking toss them, dude. This is what I wanted. Out of the whole thing, I was like, that's the piece that really fucking hits home. And they did it so well. It was so good.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So yes, let's talk about some of the differences in here, man. Because when I was watching part two, and I said in the chat, I was like, wow, I was thinking I should probably reread this because some of this feels like it belonged there, and some of them like, oh no, this has to be new, right?
Well, though, so that's a small difference, right? So Venus and Artemis got cut, their whole bond. There
Yeah,
was another bond with Jupiter. So when Jupiter and Chibiusa are together, they actually have a lot more time, right?
yeah,
When they go back to the house, they talk a little bit more, and they really try to set the stage that, hey Chibiusa, you will get your own friends like us. You will have your own kind of circle of people that will fight for you and protect you and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like that was alluded to really well. We didn't really get until Saturn, right? Where she kind of hints at it like, hey, there's a lot more going on here, and there is that difference as well. So in the manga, Saturn actually gives more description like there are these asteroids that are lost. We need to help them. Like as she's talking to Haruka when they're at the house before they actually fully awaken. And she goes, "No, these asteroids are going to help us later, but we need to help them first." Which again, the quartet, they're great, but they really don't get a lot of showtime even in the manga. But it is really much alluded to them like, hey, there are these people that we need to find.
yeah. I mean, what it really comes down to is that at the end of the day, this is an adaptation, right? So what does that mean? It can't be one for one, right? They do have to shake things up to follow the format of what we're
Exactly.
viewing. And sometimes you
Exactly.
trim the fat, and then you have to, replace it with some stuff. And overall, I mean, like I said, I'm okay with the new stuff and like the stuff they kind of cut out because, like you were saying, like we got the appropriate amount of stuff that we kind of needed for this.
Exactly. Like and as I was watching it, my main concern was, okay, well, I know that by watching Crystal, first three seasons, they obviously had to cut some things, cut some corners. I'm like, that's fine. You didn't lose the message. You didn't lose the meaning behind any of the characters and how they relate to one another. And going into Eternal, I'm like, okay, I'm really cautious, but I think they'll do just fine. And one thing I will say that they did really well in keeping was the connection with Helios and Chibiusa, which then
Yes.
gave me the light bulb ding that I think I told you in our offline chat. I was like, dude, I think I finally get why Chibiusa likes Mamoru so much. It's not just the daddy thing, but it's the fact that technically Helios is also Mamoru, right? Because
Right.
he's on
Yeah.
the inside of the earth and not like the outside. And then I was like, because there was a certain screen cap in the dialogue with him, I think when they're in Elysium, and I'm like, you literally look the same except white hair with the horn, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I get it, dude. I get it. You both have the fucking, well, he has the lance and Mamoru has the sword. I'm like, I get it, dude. I get it. It fucking fits. It fits the mold. So I will say that's one thing I very much appreciated because I am one of those people that is a huge Chibi Moon fan.
Yeah. One thing I'll say too though is that I'm like, oh yeah, how could I forget the small lady, small lady. They just kept.
Dude, yeah.
It just sounds weird, man. I don't know. It's just one of those weird translation things, or like things Japan likes to do.
Yeah, I'll never really get it. I'll never really get it, but I will agree with you. That shit's fucking comedy. Small lady.
Yeah, like
I'm
like
not.
the part that got me was when Chibiusa's by herself on the swing, and then they're like, "Oh, small lady." It's like, "Oh, I guess not small lady anymore, so
Oh
lady."
yeah.
Or it's like what?
Oh, small lady. You were my maiden. Oh, you are not the maiden. You are a full lady. But yeah, I can honestly say I really like the way they did everything with the outer soldiers too. It just
Hmm.
it felt natural because there were some parts in season three that I was like, this doesn't really feel right. Like it looks like the content's there, but the deliverance of it was not. It didn't really sell me, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay, yeah,
And then as I was going into the second part, I'm like, okay, let's see it. Okay, we got it there with Haruka and Michiru. I'm like, we have everything we need here. And then they really get into the rings because I think that was missed out upon in the
The original.
90s adaptation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just that whole little bit, and then her looking at the galaxy like that looked really, really nice.
Yeah, that was a good scene. And I think again, just having them start out part two was great because they're supposed to have a different air about them, right?
Exactly.
Compared to the
Exactly.
other ones that are always by Usagi's side. And it's also a good tone setter, right, for the rest of the film of like, oh, we have to get into the dire situations going on, and um, they already know them. Well, for the most part, they understand who they are and their responsibilities, so we don't have to go through
Hmm.
the whole thing like everyone else had to go through,
Hmm.
and
Exactly.
that helps push the movie forward faster, I think. And I was thinking too when I was watching, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad this is a two-part movie instead of just one because you would lose so much if this was like a 2-hour film.
Hmm. I completely agree. Yeah, man. I think the biggest thing here is that season four lasted like I think 50 to 70 episodes in the 90s anime, which is
Hmm.
obviously it's a lot, dude. But they fleshed out so much, and the biggest difference was I think I like more in Eternal is that when we get to Nehelenia, it's like this is the big bad. We're not having to go through all these different corners to fight the big bad. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting
Right.
straight to the point because
Yeah.
in the 90s version it's like, "Oh, I'm going to make you come into my crystal world and then we're going to leave and then we're going to go back to Earth and then we're going to go into Elysium and then we're going to go back into the crystal. No, we're going to go back to Earth." I'm like, "There's way too much work, dude."
Yeah, that's a video game
And
bullshit right there.
yeah, dude, I mean it looked great, right? It looked really fun, but seeing it the way it was done in Eternal, the way it should be done, I'm like, no, this is appropriate, right? Because we're going into the crystal, we break the crystal, we come back to Earth, and it's like, no, but she's not really here. She's in Elysium. We go fight the big bad, we get the backstory, and it was good, man. Like I will say, the other piece I was worried about was the backstory for Nehelenia. I was like, are we gonna miss anything? Are we gonna get the whole dark pieces about it and like how she literally caused everybody to die? And
Right.
when I saw it, I was like, oh, dude, again, here we go. Thank you for keeping to the source material. But again, there was that one small difference, which again, that's fine. I can take it. Where they turn to stone, they're actually supposed to have their faces melt off.
Yeah,
And when
yeah.
I
It's
got
like
to
you
that point,
can't really have that. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, dude, you can't have, Jenny from down the block going over there. I love Sailor Moon. Let's go see this. Oh, her face is melting. Well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So to turn to stone, I guess that's fine. It's a good alternative. It worked.
Yeah, I mean it's good too because it's like it's all the cracking stuff, and I think as far as like on screen, it's more satisfying to see in a sense
Hmm.
of like them cracking and breaking. Then you kind of see that turning to dust and stuff, and then the reactions immediately after.
Hmm.
I think that's probably better for a theatrical thing. If this was like a little more mature type of like just an anime, and like it would air like 11 p.m. or something, maybe they could do the face melt thing, and then it'd just be censored a bit.
Right, right. But again, I mean, their decision, it works. I'm all in for it. And just the way dude, the budget for the backstory was great, man.
Hmm.
Seeing Queen Serenity up in there, seeing all of it, dude, the Silver Millennia, man, it just all looks so fucking great. And the way Nehelenia comes in as the big bad. The one thing that did feel a little out of touch, but the manga also does this well, is where March is like, "Oh, I tried so hard to forget about this. I pushed it out." And I was like, oh, yeah, I always forget. They were reincarnated.
Right. Yeah.
The memories were there, but I couldn't fucking remember. It's like, oh, no, I get it. But it always felt out of touch to me because it's so abrupt. But again, that's how it is.
This is kind of how it was back in the day too. Yeah.
But man, and then we get into the marvelous budget of, dude, the fits. I was so horny when I
Yeah, I
saw
like
it. I
them,
was like,
man.
dude, I was like, dude, I know what's coming, dude. I know exactly what's coming. And it just, dude, when they when they talked about in season three, we're like, oh well, Uranus is like, male and female, and I'm like, yeah, I get it, that's cool. But when I saw the Babs, when I saw the,
You're like,
I'm
ooh,
gonna be
buddy.
horny, dude. I was like, yo, dude, those lines. Thank you so kindly. No, it was just all good. And then when they go into their all the Returnal outfits, I'm like, oh man, that looks fucking great. It
Hmm.
just makes me more excited as to what the next piece is going to be. Are they going to do another two-part movie? Are they going to do a couple episodes? Because I did read somewhere, and I can't remember the source, probably one of the many Sailor Moon pages I follow, but someone else was talking about the same thing, like how would we do the final season if they are going to do it? And someone said, well, the voice actress for Usagi, which has been the same one since the 90s, who also does your girl, Boa Hancock,
Of course.
she's like, I would want to get it done sooner than later because I want to be the voice. And I'm like,
Right.
dude, thank you. Keep going. So I don't know, man. I think it'll be good, especially with the way that last couple scenes went
Hmm.
with the budget. Like I think if they went this movie route, it would be perfectly fine because I feel like it might be lost if they were to do like another like full on season, especially since there's way more crazy shit that happens in this last season, you know,
Yeah.
with all the fights and all the
Hmm.
characters that get brought into it.
Well, especially the scope and scale of the final arc for Sailor Moon, right? I think that makes more sense as a film. It kind of feels like, like we say Broly, right? Like she's basically fighting Broly, and Broly is a movie
Yep.
character. You can't really see him
Hmm.
in an episode to episode format. It just doesn't. It won't be the same. And it's gonna be interesting, like you're saying, because another anime film that also came out around the same time was Demon Slayer, right? They
Hmm.
did the Infinity Train arc, which I've said on the main podcast that that's the perfect arc to make a movie because that's one of the best arcs. But
Hmm.
then they're going to continue the series as an anime after. So that's going to be interesting to go back to that transition, and maybe it's different for Sailor Moon because I don't think I can't imagine Crystal having a sizable audience compared to Demon Slayer. So maybe
Oh,
like the
probably not.
demand for it to be an episode to episode thing's just not there. And it's like,
Hmm.
well, if everyone was satisfied with the movie, let's just keep that going, right?
Exactly. And I know that the people that have watched the last season, because that's actually the only season that was never dubbed, for
Right.
whatever reason. Um, a lot of people like it, man. A lot of people like the Sailor Stars, and who's to say they're not fucking cool, man? They got some sick ass music. It
Of
took me like a
course.
month to find that fucking CD, dude. Like I'm all in for it. It's hard, dude. Like there's like you said, the scale and scope of it gets insane, especially by the end of it all. Like it starts off real slow, and then we get into like the biggest bad of them all, and then we get into the cauldron, and then we get into the dude. There's just a lot. There's a lot that goes on in there, and I feel like a movie could captivate that very very well.
Hmm. I mean, especially towards the end, right? With how many effects you're gonna have to do
Exactly.
when we get I forget the name. It's the final form for Usagi. It's Sailor
Cosmos.
Cosmos. Yeah, like and how flashy that is, right? I think that'd be
Yeah.
better. That'd be better in a movie budget and with no CG models or anything
Hmm.
like that, right?
Hmm.
I think I could see that movie being a two-parter or a one-parter if it's like a 2 hour or 2 hour 15.
I could see that too, because I mean we really only need to get introduced to like three sets of characters essentially. So we get the Sailor Stars, and then we have Galaxia's people, and then Galaxia herself, and then
Hmm.
everyone else. We already know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and like the setup stuff's gonna be super easy to get into, like the first 15 minutes of the movie, I imagine, where just
Oh yeah,
everyone just gets murdered, right? I think
it
that'll
dude.
be.
That's gonna be great. Well, see, that's the other thing too. So when I finished rereading the arc, and it's obviously Usagi's last lines in Eternal, right? She goes, Mamoru says something. He goes, "Oh, I feel something bright, burning inside me," and then she goes, "That's your star. Every one of us has a star inside of us,
Mm-hmm.
and it's what makes us all shine, and this and that." And when I was rereading it, I was like, yeah, that's literally the last arc right there, man. And I thought that there was a post-credit scene, but there isn't. But I think what people were saying was that maybe in the theaters there was a post-credit scene for part one into part two, which I'm like, okay, that's fine. That gives us like, I mean, you already know what's gonna happen, right? It's not like nobody knew what was gonna happen, but you get to see the outer senshi just kind of come out like, oh, cool, we're living life, we're doing our thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I just keep thinking about what the budget would be like for that super flashy scene with Sailor Cosmos, but then I think about how they did it with Nehelenia and when she did her final attack. I'm like, you can do it, dude. That is so good. The aging on her as she was getting hit, as the mirror was breaking, it just all of it was. But did you see the other Sailor Moon movies or no?
No, I didn't get a chance to watch them.
Oh, it's okay. We can get to those later and do a full comparison another day. They're a fun time, man. The first one is very well structured. The second one is like an OVA, but it's cool because we get human Luna, which is pretty awesome. Also very horny, FIFT. And then the third movie is all Chibiusa, and I guess you could say it's kind of like a different take on Nehelenia, which
Oh,
is
okay.
really interesting.
But it's
I think she
Chibiusa
also
who saves the day kind of thing, or
it's Chibiusa and it's Usagi.
oh, okay.
But you really get this, what I love about that movie so much is that you really get to see like Usagi be a mom. You really get to like pull off this like, dude, you know what? I'm not a kid anymore. I mean, I am a kid. I'm in high school, but I'm not a kid when it comes to Chibiusa. And I just, it's so good, dude. It's so good. I think when I'd watched that or rewatched it, because I think that was the first piece of Sailor Moon content I ever watched, like when I was a kid. I was like, wow, this thing is awesome. And then I spent a long time away. But last year when I was reading the manga, I watched that movie, went into the dream arc. I was like, oh, they could easily make that completely canon because of how well it actually fits.
Hmm.
I will give you the full synopsis, but you're gonna enjoy it a lot when you get to it.
Yeah, I like it when anime movies do that. Like with My Hero, with so far, anyways, with the first two movies, they were recently in the chapters confirmed that they're pretty much canon. But yeah, they just fit so well, and I think who said it? Connor over from Marvel Talk, the way he put it was just like, yeah, these are just ideas that the mangaka had that he just really couldn't fit in the manga at the time. So like, yeah, why not just make it a movie and it'll be canon anyways? I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
way to do it.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, and when it fits, it fits. I mean, dude, look at all the badass Inuyasha moves we have.
Oh, of
I don't
course.
think there's one. I don't think there's one I don't like. They're all just so damn good, And then like the OG Naruto ones, because I didn't see too many of the Shippuden ones, but like the old school Naruto ones, man, those ones are great too.
Oh yeah, I remember the first one, the with the hidden snow village. I was like, oh, this is great. Like so the last, I saw the last three that came out, and I was like, oh, these are pretty strong.
I'll have to circle back to those. Yeah, man, it's all in all, I think I'm standing by my 9.5, like solid 9 for Eternal. It gave me everything I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and it the budget was really good. A lot of the scenes I really cared about and seeing like how they would do it with this kind of budget was really nice. Like everybody had the best transformations I have ever seen in the entire series, which is why I really wanted to see all of Crystal in its entirety before I got to this. And it was killer, dude. And then for us to finally have a Saturn transformation, which has never been done before, I was like, you
Mm.
killed it, dude. That's exactly what I would have imagined it to be. And it was short and sweet, but I'll take it. It's this was a really good time. If none of you have seen this yet, what are you doing? Go do yourself a flavor and get trashed and watch the Eternal movies. And it is coming out in Japan in a couple days on physical.
Yeah, I hope that means we get that soon because I would like to have this on the shelf.
Dude, the discs look really nice, man. I'm gonna tell you that much. It's a four
Ooh,
disc part. It's
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 four discs.
yeah.
Huh.
So it's bundled together all in one. So it's the two parts and the soundtrack.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And like the other two, I think it's the soundtracks that have the silver crystal and then Mamoru's golden crystal, like fully bloomed. I'm like, ah, dude, I'd take my fucking money, dude. I want two, one that I can open and one that I can just stare at. But cool, man. That's this month's BFM. I didn't even check it to see if we had a. I should probably check right now before I end off, actually. See if we have any emails.
Mom, that's the first thing you got to check.
Yeah, dude. I always forget, dude, because there's never any in there. So, which means you guys should send in an email. Send in the email. I will talk about it. I think I joked around the last time. I was like, I'm not gonna do it, but I'll do it. I'll do it for fun. But I will say this: the next month episode is going to be probably a long one, probably a really funny one.
Yeah, I'm ready for that one.
It's going to be a good time, dude. I'm all in for it. All right, here we go. Emails. No emails. All right, send in an email. That's bigfmoodpodcast@gmail.com, and we will see you guys next month for a very good time.